West Africa is not exempted from the effects of climate change. Consequently, several extreme events such as floods, drought, and many other climate-related phenomena have occurred in the 21st century. As a result of the region's lack of equipment to monitor climatic variables, there is very little data to develop solutions to the problems associated with these events.
WASCAL has been created to fill gaps, a number of gaps on the field of climate change and adapted land use in West Africa in terms of infrastructure. Science-based infrastructure on climate change, very little. And if we look at also a number of service provision capacity in terms of climate and environmental service provision to countries, to communities, to decision makers, it was so low. So WASCAL has been organized around those to fill those gaps.
The West African Science Service Center on Climate Change and Adapted Land Use, WASCAL, has been working with its member countries to ensure climate data availability to support research, education, climate service development, and capacity building. Accordingly, WASCAL has established 3 research catchments and pilot sites in 3 different countries: Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Benin, equipped with various hydroclimate stations and sensors, also known as basins. Alongside these basins, WASCAL has collaboratively developed a strong transboundary climate observatory network in accordance with World Meteorological Organization (WMO) principles with national hydromet services through a series of country and regional level consultations. These consultations involved directors of national hydromet services of WASCAL member countries, WMO, the German Ministry of Research and Education, BMBF, and other partners. Subsequently, WASCAL, through funding from BMBF, procured, distributed, and installed 50 automatic weather stations in its then member countries: Ghana, Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Gambia, and Senegal. Prior to this, a team of experts from WASCAL received an industrial training on the installation of the equipment from the supplier in Europe. Afterward, these trained experts trained technicians in each member country during the installation of the equipment. The network of automatic weather stations in these WASCAL member countries, which forms part of WASCAL Observation Network, is greatly benefiting several stakeholders. On 22nd October 2020, WASCAL officially handed over the 6 automatic weather stations in Burkina Faso to the country's National Meteorological Agency. The ceremony, which took place at WASCAL Competence Center in Ouagadougou, followed by symbolic presentation marked by a ribbon cutting at Bouassa, where one of the stations is sited, was attended by representatives of several national institutions and WASCAL partner institutions and organizations, including the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Burkina Faso, the Directorate General for Water Resources, the National Institute for Environment and Agricultural Research, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, the National Meteorological Agency, NGOs, the National Water and Sanitation Office, the National Agency for Renewable Energy, the African Alliance for Green Revolution, AGRA, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, and national media houses. Dr. Sain Salak, who oversaw the whole installation process and is also an end user of the data from the observation networks, has something to say.
This began a long time ago, I would say, in August 2009, when we had the first workshop inviting all the national directors of weather services in West Africa to discuss about the status quo of their national observation networks. Then after that, we had another, again, big event where we came back to discuss again the status quo, but also the ways forward in 2015, January 2015, to also again look at it and how the framework of WASCAL can support in bridging the gap, the data gap in the region. In a nutshell, the whole observation network is the backbone to research, okay, capacity building, education, and services provision for the region. The achievement so far has been great, because if you look at this map now, this is what the previous situation was. We had about 132 synoptic stations, which are the main stations that are used for generating weather forecasts, for instance, at the global level. By WASCAL intervening through the funding of BMBF and German government, we were able to increase that by 40%. The national met services of all the member countries got access to these services, and today the daily routine services are being improved, while we as researchers are able also to improve more in our understanding of the process.
These automatic weather stations have continuously been providing quality and useful data to the National Meteorological Agency in WASCAL member countries. Dr. Ulrich Diaso from the Meteorological Agency of Burkina Faso, ANAM, explains the usefulness of the automatic weather stations for weather monitoring and forecasting in the country.
Observation is the primary source of data for national met services when it comes to producing and forecasting weather for public goods. So at the National Meteorological Agency of Burkina, we used to make use of classic stations to collect data from around the country, but at a certain point they have some challenges in terms of the quality of the data collected by the people around the country. So we found that it's good to move into automatization of all our observation system, including procurement and installation of automated weather stations all across the country. And for that we get support from our partners, and WASCAL is one of our key partners in terms of capacity building to be able to provide timely, accurate weather information to the community.
Dr. Belko Abdul Aziz Diallo, the head of Data Management Department, will comment on the overall data infrastructure.
The WASCAL observatory networks are part of another whole data infrastructure, which is known at WASCAL as WADI. WADI stands for WASCAL Data Infrastructures and has been set up regionally to deal with data collection, data archiving and storage, data computation, and of course data sharing and dissemination. The first component of this infrastructure is of course the observatory networks, from which ground data are collected. Then this data collected from the ground, after being processed, can be stored and shown to the public through WASCAL data portals, which is the second component of this infrastructure. Once these data are stored, they can then be used to compute climate models or climate provisions and projections. And this is done thanks to WASCAL high-performance computing systems we have been able to install here at the Competence Center. And this facility is the third component of WADI. The fourth component of WASCAL data infrastructure is the GIS lab, which comes to complement the ground data where observatory networks that are able to provide data are complemented by GIS remote sense data in order to cover the whole regions with data facilities, data access.
Farmers in West Africa are also benefiting greatly from climate advisory services provided by WASCAL and other climate and environmental service providers in the region. My name is Daniel Somda, and I am a farmer living in Pontieba. We have been farming for a long time, but we realized that our yields were very low. We were practically getting tired because of the low yield, but with the arrival of WASCAL, many things have changed. We have been working together for 4 years. They give us climatic information. They also provide agro-meteorological advisory services that help us to make the right choices in response to seasonal variations. As a result, we have seen an increase in our production. When my engagement with WASCAL started, several people laughed at me, but nowadays they come back and ask how I do it because the results are so clear. I thank WASCAL for its support. The data is also useful for building the capacity of the next generation of scientists in West Africa, particularly those receiving their training with the capacity building program of WASCAL. The students use the data for their thesis and scientific publications. Scientists also use the data for research, education, and services development and provision. Furthermore, in the spirit of strengthening the infrastructural capacity of West Africa and closing the hydro-climate data gaps of the region, WASCAL has acquired 50 automatic water level gauges and 10 automatic water quality sensors through additional funding from BMBF to be installed in the major river basins for the benefit of its member countries. Following the delivery of the equipment to WASCAL Competence Center, these automatic hydro sensors will be installed in the Mono, Niger, Volta, the Gambia, Senegal, Ueme, and Komoe river basins. To commission the automatic hydro sensors, WASCAL, through the Competence Center, is organizing a hybrid physical online regional workshop on hydrometeorological observation networks, status quo, and perspectives, and to engage its stakeholders on the dispatching roadmap and future perspectives.
We are very grateful to Professor Hack and the entire BMBF, for the support that BMBF gave WASCAL in also acquiring more than the hydrological sensor. They also gave us facility for automatic weather stations, which we have deployed, to all the 11 member countries of WASCAL to complement what climate data that we are acquiring, that are derived, from all national meteorological agencies. So it's really a very important one. And at WASCAL, on behalf of the Executive Director, we are very grateful for the provision of this facility for WASCAL. And apart from the 50 automatic weather station, BMBF also supported WASCAL with additional 60 what we call automatic hydro sensor. The automatic hydro sensor is what we really want to give out today. So we are really, really very grateful to BMBF, more importantly, to Professor Hack and his team, to DLRPT, for the support, given to WASCAL in acquiring this facility.
To WASCAL, this achievement is just the first step towards addressing the challenges around data availability to support research on climate change and development of mitigation and adaptation services in West Africa. With more commitment from the countries, WASCAL expects to double current number of equipment within its observation network in the upcoming years.